the track with the most number of sessions because we have so many lightning talks. Mark.
Who the hell is Mark Haywood?
Why did I write Mark Haywood? Come on.
However, it is a Mark.
Sorry.
You got the first name right.
So this is Mark Hayes, and he's not named.
No.
He might be from now on, though.
I like it.
I'm skipping to the next slide, okay?
Perfect. Okay, so yeah, I'm glad I'm up last because, you know, they do say leave the best till last, and this is the best track, undoubtedly. All right, there's some great stuff going on in here. Kicking off with a Databricks session, okay, from Askana, I'm going to struggle on that surname, Padmakara. Databricks really relevant at the moment, okay? Anything you're doing with data lakes, anything you're doing inside an Azure, anything you're going to be doing with data movement, and let's face it, data warehousing is all about data movement, you're probably going to be coming across Databricks at some point in there. So this is going to be a great session, going to be really useful to kind of see this going on there, all right? Cool. Let's move on then, and I've got a bunch of lightning talks. I got 2 sets of lightning talks going on. I love lightning talks. They're kind of almost my favorite thing to go to because you just get a little bit of snippets of lots of things, all right? So on this track, we have a bit of a pick and mix going on there, but starting off with some very practical assessment techniques on SQL Server from Arivad L. Okay. And I'm not really going to go into much details on any of these lightning talks in there. I think they're better saying, right, it's going to be, it is what it is. You read the title, that should tell you what's going on here, right? So we've got the SQL Server assessments. Moving on to our next guy, we've got Blazor WebAssembly Web UI with C# and Azure SQL. I actually don't understand several words inside that. Okay. So I'm really kind of hoping other people out there might do it in there, but it's C#. It's Azure SQL going on there. It's web user interface in there. The bit I don't get is the Blazor. All right.
I've heard a few people quite excited about it.
I think this is going to be one of those ones that if you're into it, you're going to go, I want to see this, right? So you know, so looking forward to it nonetheless, because this is definitely going to be one of those ones I'm going to learn something new, and it's going to be about Blazor. After this one, we have the mother of Medea, who's our 13-year-old speaking at 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, this is her mother, Iranda. She's doing us a five Power Query tips that will improve your productivity. And I've just spent the last week, a lot of it inside in Power Query. All right, it's a super tool. It's a super technology, but it can be a pain in the ass to work with too. All right, so I'm kind of looking forward to see what her 5 tips are. I hope I know them, but I might well not know them at all. So I'm looking forward to finding out a bit more about it. It's cool. Great in delivering 10 minutes as well, because you can just divvy it up, 2 minutes a tip. Let's move on, you know. Then after this, we've got Kelly. All right, so Power BI governance. Governance is one of those kind of like things we don't like to talk about really, all right? We're techs, we love to just to develop and throw it out there. But actually the whole governance thing is really important, particularly in Power BI. Power BI can get messy really quickly. So I'm kind of curious what she's going to be saying in here, because it's not something I've ever particularly considered, the pro trial or not pro trial. As in, I just throw everyone onto the pro trial on the whole basis of, yeah, you know, play around with it, and then we'll upgrade you. Okay, so now I'm kind of going, okay, what problems have I created for people? So hopefully I'm going to find out what problems I've created for people and know the error of my ways after this session. Okay, and then the first set of lightning talks on my track is don't cook your data warehouse with rotten ingredients. It's a play on a cookbook, I think. All right, don't cook your soup with rotten ingredients, I think is the title. But I kind of, if this is going to be where I'm going with, fundamentally got to agree, isn't it? Isn't this the classic garbage in, garbage out situation going on there? You know, so you got to get your data layers right before you're doing anything clever with your analysis in there. So it's going to be interesting to see what's happening in there. So that's the first block of 5 sessions. I want to call out with the lightning talks. We're going to do a little bit of just a fun kind of vote for your favorite. All right. I don't want to necessarily even call it a vote for the best, because I think that's kind of like a little bit unfair when you got lightning talk. So really, I'm just asking people to kind of go, look, what one did you really like? What one did you get a couple of tips from? You know, what one did you think was funny? What one did you think was different? Whatever yours or flavor really. So we are going to do a little bit of vote in each one of the sessions. So we'll have one person from each Lightning Talk session walking away with the honor of being the Data Weekender favorite Lightning Talk speaker, you know. So that's something to be looking out for during the sessions.
Yep.
Now, let's move on. So another new Stars of Data person, Retfi. I think we've got 4 new Stars of Data guys up in the conference. So I think this is the last one that we might be profiling in there. And yeah, what they should have told me about being a DBA. I mean, I don't know why he's taking 60 minutes, because the answer is just don't become a DBA, right? Or if you're going to become a DBA, just get used to it. But no, I think there's going to be a hell of a lot to learn inside in here. You know, DBA underpins. Kind of we forget. I forget. I joke about. I jest about DBAs, but we forget sometimes that there are some organizations out there that just have hundreds and hundreds of SQL servers and other servers sitting around the place. And often DBAs are out there and they kind of going, what do you mean I manage just SQL Server? I actually manage loads of things. SQL Server is just one part of my whole stack in there. So, you know, it's good to get tips from people who are used to handling it at that scale, you know. So I think there's going to be a good session. And at the very least, all the DBAs out there will probably be able to nod along in painful silence, kind of going, yeah, we hear you, brother. So that's all about Retsy's session. The untruthful art, 5 ways of misrepresenting data by Alexander. Yeah, I mean, like, I think this is interesting. I like this is, if we talk about post-truth society and we talk about alternative facts, and then we see charts in there where people start altering the scale. So like something that's linear looks exponential, or something that's exponential looks linear, and things like that. You know, people get confused about means versus averages versus modes and all this stuff. Really, I mean, it's lies, and damn statistics. Okay, and I hope what I hope I'm going to be seeing in this way basically is just examples of where that applies, and to be aware of this from your own point of view of when we are actually doing anything with data, that we don't necessarily inadvertently fall into a trap, and that we would misrepresent our data out there. So that's what this session is. I hope about, okay, because that's what I'm expecting to see in there anyway.
Yeah, and I think we've all seen this interview with a well-known president where it talks about COVID-19 presenting. I mean, it's also about which data do you choose to present to. Correct,
absolutely. So look, it's good. And also should be pointed out, Alexander is an MVP. Did I miss any of my MVPs earlier in the session? No, I think I've got 4 MVPs in a row now. So he's an MVP out there, and I always like listening to the MVPs. They tend to be good at talking. They tend to know a lot of stuff when they're talking. So they're generally good sessions to go to. All right. Yep. Then we have Power Platform Better Together, creating a scoring app with a live dashboard from Nikki. So Nikki is a pretty well-known speaker out there. His sessions are always good. There's a lot of content in there. I'm not actually sure in terms of, I'm a bit intrigued by the scoring app in here. All right, so I'm kind of going, what type of scoring are you talking about? Are we talking about like scoring on a football pitch, scoring in a nightclub, or scoring a balanced scorecard? All right, so, you know, and I'm really curious about how I could use Power Platform to help me score in a nightclub, but, you know, or at least would have in my youthful days. But so no, it's Nikki. It's worth coming along to see him in there. It's on the whole Power Platform, and it's all like got that Power BI license going in there. There's a lot to like just in this title and another MVP speaker. So going to be a good session. Looking forward to that one.
Nikki is typing in the chat. He is in this meeting, so
it's definitely one of those. Okay, so it's definitely okay. It's probably not the one I'm hoping it's going to be honest.
I'm going to be moving on now.
Everyone's got a story to tell. It's good. You mentioned there earlier, Magnus, about like some of the sessions don't have to be about data, and it's one thing we kind of encourage in Data Weekender. We want to get some sessions that aren't necessarily to do with the data, that they can do with things like mental health, they can do with things like career progression. You know, there's all sorts of things that are worth talking about, and that we want to give an audience to. Andy is a well-known speaker out there, and you know, he can do a lot of deep technical stuff in here. Well, I think this is going to be very interesting to see it about the whole development. Your first talk potentially, all right, and it's something we want to encourage people to do more of. I find it personally very rewarding to do talks, It's a great way of learning a lot about yourself and learning a lot about technology and meeting people, you know, so it's a good thing. So it's going to be great to get a few tips from Andy about, you know, how to make that work for you and how to kind of get on board with your first presentation. So hopefully there'll be a few prospective people out there who might be thinking about it, who will pop into this session to get a few tips. And another Microsoft, sorry, no longer MVP, was Microsoft MVP, definitely was a former MVP in there, and I think he works for Century One now as their lead architect or something. So technically he knows his stuff too.
True.
Then we're on to our next
lightning talks.
Yeah, our next block of lightning talks. So again, a nice little bit of pick and mix going on here. Save the world of money with data lakes. Okay, yeah, data lakes, like the opening session on Databricks, very hot topic. Data lake, also very, very hot topic out there at the moment. Something I see oversold and undersold lots of times. So it's kind of an interesting perspective to see in this one, where I can go, okay, well, actually, how can I use a data lake from a practicality and actually maybe get a bit of money saving out there? So I can definitely, people will say, kind of go, yeah, I want to save money. Let's do something. I'm not sure how he's going to go use about it to save the world, but let's just find out about that one, all right? So kicking on to the next one, John Deerdruff. I must apologize to John Deerdruff when I see that, because as a son of a farmer, I just see John Deere every time I have a picture of a tractor, a big green tractor in my head, okay? But it's a row level security, kind of one of those little nuggets you need to know about, because it's always going to come up at some point in time, right? When you turn around, you got a solution up and running, and someone says, we need to put security on that one, and then you're kind of going, well, what type of security? And then it comes out to be row level security. So he's doing it on SQL Server, which is the bit that I'm kind of going, because I know how to do row level security on analysis service and Power BI and stuff like that. And generally, I would kind of go, well, why bother would I even think about this on a SQL Server? Because people are going to go in via the analysis services route, right? But then that's me, from my background. So I am curious to see how this works from a SQL Server point of view, because it's been a long time since I've looked at that as a topic. So this will be a good one, a good practical one to know.
Cool.
Don't lose your integrity. So that's one that just says everything we need to know. Right?
Absolutely.
Now, Donald Trump could do with watching some of this, I think, but probably not in the SQL Server side of things, all right? No, this is basically all about database integrity, all right? So T-SQL features about and how to keep your data solid and reliable inside in a SQL environment, which underpins everything with data, single version of truth and all of that, right? So yeah, again, I'm expecting something that's very practical, something very kind of going, yeah, you got to be aware of this, never lose sight of this type of stuff when you're trying to do database design work. Okay, moving on again, how bad are page splits? Nothing to worry about, right? What's the problem with a page split? So again, a very kind of a little deep, this one, for a 10-minute session going on there, all right, to be talking about page splits and examples of how that can work in there. So I'm going to be curious how he's going to manage this one in 10 minutes. Talking about Mike himself, he's a rocket scientist, all right? He's a former rocket scientist and United States Air Force fighter pilot. So anyone who's a rocket science, anyone who's flown planes in there, I just kind of go tip my hat to them and kind of go, I'm going to listen to whatever you're going to say, dude. All right. So, you know, and has been working in SQL Server for 24 years as well. Okay. So a lot of experience coming in here, both life experience and knowledge on the product. So I think this is going to be a good session. I'm looking forward to seeing Mike talk.
Yeah, me too. I've seen him. He's been in Gothenburg for SQL Saturday. Obviously not this year because traveling wasn't a good thing to do. But he's coming. He used to live in Europe for quite some time, so he's coming to Europe once a year, and he tries to visit SQL Saturday Gothenburg. So it's really nice to meet him and have a beer. And he's a really nice guy too.
Super, great. Extended events. We have a full session extended events, don't we? Isn't Erin doing one?
Yeah, we have a couple of ones, I think.
We have a couple of ones in there, right? So look, extended events, one of those things of we should be using them. You know, this is the right way to be actually doing your monitoring. So this is just a little 10-minute dive into it, and to get the first or every get the first 10 or every fourth, basically. So it's how to split things up so you can pick out particular events that you want to get out of there, you know. So I think this is going to be one that's going to have a couple of nuggets of gold sitting inside in it. A kind of an ideal 10-minute session, an ideal 10-minute kind of going, you probably know about this stuff, but let's just show you some extra unique things you can do with it. So that's my second track of 5, which as I look at it is a very SQL Server based track in there. So, you know, I think there's going to be a lot of DBA SQL guys kind of going on there wanting to see this, because it's quite a good session for them. And then finishing off last but by no means least, we have Angela. Angela is another MVP. I think she's my 4th MVP on this track. All right, DBA database developer going on there again, and does a lot of talking, works with Paz a fair bit, runs a few user groups, so very, very active inside in the community. And obviously the session itself to do with profiling of your data. Well, basically, yeah, how good is your data? How clean is your data? You know, and I mean, how many times have we turned around and, well, being given a project and you look at the data and you kind of suddenly realize, oh God, it's muck in here, dude. So, you know, it's going to be kind of good to kind of get tips about how you could maybe learn more about that up front, I'm hoping, as opposed to right in the middle of UAT time when you're looking at the data kind of going, yeah, no wonder people are ringing me and just complaining about bugs and you're saying there's problems in your data as opposed to issues with the system, you know. So I think there's going to be a good practical, a good end of the day session on this whole track, you know, Super Speaker. So that's my track. Thank you very much. I mean, my highlight on this track, tough call actually. I kind of look at things. There's a lot of like in here. I'm going to go with the lightning talks in general. I'm looking forward to them. You know, it's going to be good to see some lightning tracks going on there. I'm looking forward to learn a bit more about Databricks, because it's one of those things that I feel I should know about, but I know nothing about. You know, and I can like put my feet up and go to sleep during all the DBA things, right? Because, you know, other people deal with that.
Yeah, sure. Leave that to me.
Yeah.